Wars is part of the Rippin' Podcast Network. In this episode of Cardboard Wars, Ben Ripping, M46 Rippin', and Kevin Rips dive into the legendary impact of Joe Namath. They explore Namath's rise from humble beginnings in Pennsylvania to becoming the one and only Broadway Joe, a pivotal figure in football history who changed the game with his confidence and charisma. They also discuss the iconic 1965 Topps Joe Namath rookie card, its value and its importance to collectors. So sit back and enjoy this episode of Cardboard Wars.
In the early 1960s, football was powerful, but it was also a little bit restrained. See, the coaches, they ruled the roost. Quarterbacks had to obey. Personality, unfortunately, stayed quiet on the field. Confidence was supposed to be internal, not spoken. The National Football League believed legitimacy came from control.
And then there was the American Football League. Loud, colorful, desperate, willing to throw the ball, willing to spend money, willing to gamble on ideas. The NFL dismissed as reckless. What the AFL needed was not just wins, it needed belief.
It needed somebody who could stand in public and say, we're not pretending anymore.
That person would not come from privilege. He would not come from polish. He would come from a steel town where confidence was forged, not rewarded. His name, Joe William Namath.
Just a win for outspoken people.
I don't know about that. I know it's a hell of a loss for those folks who picked it the other way. You got to have confidence in your team. You got to have confidence in yourself. And if you don't have that confidence, you can't play football. We all felt we could win. We won.
Joe, you're king of the hill.
No, we're king of the hill. We got the team, brother.
Joe Namath was born May 31st, 1943 in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. This was not a place for dreaming. It was built for working, for steel mills, long shifts, a town where the sound of the industry never stopped. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cardboard Wars. I am Ben Ripping. I'm joined today with two co-hosts, M46 and my other friend, Kevin Rips. We talk about the history of sports cards, the players that are on them, and the manufacturers that make them. Now back to Joe. See, Joe's father worked in construction. His mother immigrated from Hungary. Discipline was part of daily life. Expectations were clear. You earned your place. Joe was the youngest of 5 children. That matters because in families like that, you learn how to compete, how to speak up, and how to hold your own.
That's right. That's where Joe's confidence came from. It wasn't from praise. It wasn't from hype. It came from pressure. Sports became his escape in the classroom. Baseball taught Joe mechanics. Basketball taught him about movement. Football taught him command. And at Beaver Falls High School, Namath didn't just play quarterback. He controlled games. He read defenses naturally. He trusted his arm. And he just never looked rattled. In 1960, he led Beaver Falls to a Pennsylvania state championship. But there was a warning sign.
Yeah, Joe injured his knee in high school. And at that time, this was serious. Actually, several colleges programs hesitated on him, and there was real concerns about his longevity.
This became, unfortunately, a reoccurring theme in his life. Talent followed by doubt, and Namath's response was never argument. It was performance. One coach saw past the risk. His name was Bear Bryant.
It just makes it perfect. This just makes it perfect. We're behind. They're all fired up. We got class, we're going to find it out. We got class, and I know we got it. Then when we get the ball, we got to have 11 people. 11 people is just going to do their job, whatever it is. Just going to do their job and try to score every time you get the football. If we do that, we'll be all right. If we do that, we'll be all right. The offensive team is...
Paul Bear Bryant was the most powerful coach in college football. Alabama under Bryant was a machine. Discipline, precision, fear, and respect.
When Namath arrived at Alabama, he did not arrive as a finished product. He arrived as raw talent with unshakable belief. And he played at Alabama from 62 to 64. And during that span, the team actually went 29-4. In fact, I honestly don't know how they lost with a coach named Bear Bryant.
College football at the time did not revolve around passing statistics. It revolved around control. Bryant trusted Namath when it mattered. The trust was rare. Bryant later said Joe Namath was the greatest athlete that he ever coached.
And I think the thing is that about Bear Bryant being maybe the greatest coach of all time, that's not nostalgia talking. That was Bear Bryant measuring Joe's presence. See, Namath finished his Alabama career with 2,700 plus yards passing, 25 touchdowns. And again, this is a time in SEC football where they're running 70, 80% of those time. So those numbers don't even begin to explain his impact. But what matters is he learned how to exist inside of pressure without ever shrinking. He learned how to believe without losing any discipline. And that combination would define everything that followed for Joe.
Joe Namath at Alabama. Now there's a name that rings out in college football history. Under the watchful eye of Bear Bryant, Namath led the Crimson Tide to a national championship in 1964. With a rocket arm and those quick feet, Joe Willie was the kind of player who could make something out of nothing. He stood tall in the pocket, cool as ever, and even a knee injury couldn't slow him down. Namath's record as a starter? An impressive 29-4, showing that swagger that would follow him into the pros. Whether it was rolling out under pressure or launching one deep, Namath had a way of electrifying the crowd. He wasn't just a quarterback, folks. He was the heart of Alabama's offense and a star destined for greatness in the NFL.
By 1965, professional football was fractured. The NFL was established. They were conservative, powerful. The AFL was experimental, aggressive, unafraid to challenge tradition. The two leagues were fighting over players. They were fighting over television contracts and legitimacy. Joe Namath was one of the most valuable assets in the war.
And what's crazy is during this battle, the Cardinals drafted Namath. The New York Jets out of the AFL pursued him super aggressively. And on January 2nd, 65, Namath actually signed with the Jets for $427,000.
Wow. This contract mattered beyond football. It told the world the AFL could compete financially. And Namath didn't just pick the AFL, he picked New York.
Yeah, because if you're going to make a statement, New York makes that statement even louder. And almost immediately, Namath became something new. He became, and we all know this, we've heard this term, he became Broadway Joe. Not a nickname by a marketing team. It was like a reaction to presence, to his confidence, to somebody who is comfortable, completely comfortable being seen by the world.
Broadway Joe did not play football the way the league expected quarterbacks to play. He attacked defenses. He took risk. He accepted interceptions as the cost of aggression. Critics, of course, focused on his mistakes. Namath focused on the progress.
And it was that progress that led him to 4,000 yards in a season, the first quarterback in professional football to achieve that. And he finished with 4,007 yards. And that number mattered because it was a decade ahead of its time. It would take 12 years before another quarterback even reached it. Namath wasn't playing tomorrow's game. He was playing the future.
And the future fought back. He was criticized relentlessly. Like, you heard terms like he's too flashy, he's too reckless, he's too visible. And here's the deal, man. Leadership gets lonely when you're early.
Yeah, we all know that. By 1968, the Jets were no longer an experiment. They went 11-3. They won the AFL championship. They earned the right to face the NFL's best, which happened to be that year, the Baltimore Colts.
And like, they got no respect. I mean, the Colts were literally favored by 18 points in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you would even say that Joe and the Jets were like, they treated the game like the loss was going to be a formality. 3 days before the game at a Miami banquet, Joe Namath spoke words that will live with him forever. Joe said, "We're going to win the game. I guarantee it." That wasn't bravado, though. That was Joe. Like, that was just who he was. He was saying what he really believed.
I think we got a heck of a shot of winning. We can beat anybody in the world, and I think we're going to win next Sunday.
Yes, Namath is on the hot seat. Most of the pressure is on him. He has said that the Jets are going to win. He doesn't even predict it. He says, "I guarantee a Jet victory."
I know we're going to win. I have that attitude. I feel that way, and it's not overconfidence thing. It's football sense.
Talking about guaranteeing we're going to win, yeah, that's right. That's the way we felt.
Namath took all the pressure and put it on himself. On game day, he didn't throw a touchdown pass. He didn't need to.
But hey, it's all he needed, though. The Jets ended up winning 16-7. Namath threw for 206 yards, no interceptions, and he was named the MVP. And at that point in time, the AFL was validated. The merger was legitimized. Professional football changed forever.
Well, the myth ends with a little bit of confetti. The reality continued for Joe in pain, and his knees, they deteriorated. The surgeries, one after another, the seasons inevitably shortened for him.
And he ended up finishing his career with 27,663 passing yards, 173 touchdowns, and 220 interceptions. And I still remember his super sweet fur coats he wore.
He became, gentlemen, one of the first true celebrity athletes. He was on commercials, television. He was part of culture. Before athletes were brands, Namath already was one. He's not going to be remembered because his stats were perfect. He's going to be remembered because his belief in himself and his team, that was contagious. He proved that confidence, when earned, my friends, can change industries, can change teams, can change a sport. That leadership spoke out loud can alter the outcomes of games. That sometimes the most powerful words in sports are not trash talk. They're just certainty.
Yeah, Broadway Joe didn't just guarantee a game. What he did is he guaranteed the future of football as we know it.
When I think of football cards, the Joe Namath card is one of those cards that you can see from a mile away at Fanatics Fest or Nationals or Burbank or Front Row or any of the other card shows where you see us nerds hanging out and trying to do deals, because it looks different. Jake, describe the 1965 Topps Joe Namath rookie card numbered 122 visually for me, or Kevin, either one.
I'm going to take this one, Ben. I'll tell you what jumps off the page at me is the yellow. That color jumps off of the card. You get the words New York on top in red letters. You got a picture of Joe holding the football like he's glaring down a receiver that he's about to hit. It's just the way the color, that the yellow background, the green on his jersey, and the red New York on the top just pops off of the card.
I mean, he almost looks kind of pissed.
He looks like a sniper. Like he kind of has this look to him like, hey, I'm gonna nail this right now, doesn't he?
And that was just his confidence. I mean, that's how he thought.
Yep. What a beautiful set of cards. Kevin, walk us through the population reports.
Yeah,
for from PSA for his rookie card.
Yeah, I'm going to start at the bottom, but I'm going to give away a secret before I get there. There's no PSA 10s in this card, Ben. I looked. Yeah, I know you went and looked and double checked me. We checked a couple other graders. There's not a single PSA 10. I'm not saying there's not 10s in from any of the graders, but let's face it, we're going to mostly focus on PSA here. If we just start with the off, so not even a 1. There's 49 cards that have been graded as authentic. Got 126 PSA 1s, 44 PSA 1.5s. Got 129 PSA 2s. There's 181 versions of PSA 3. 334 PSA 4s. 350 PSA 5. Got 347 PSA 6. Now it starts really dropping down. There's only 187 PSA 7s out there. Drops down even bigger. 78 PSA 8s. And Ben, I know I already gave away the punchline of no PSA 10s, but there's only 5 PSA 9s to boot, with the most recent sales price of over $250,000, by the way, $264,000 for a PSA 9, of which there's only a population of 5. I can't tell. Part of me feels like that's a bargain, and part of me goes, man, that's really expensive.
There's a lot of people listening to this podcast, and sometimes we assume that all of you are diehard collectors and nerds, but we're getting a lot of people that are listening to Cardboard Wars. Thank you all for the shares and promotions and so on. We'll break 1 million listens this month on Cardboard Wars, which is pretty crazy, by the way. Over 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. Pretty incredible. We really appreciate you all. But one of the assumptions that I make sometimes is that everybody knows this kind of stuff. But for those of you that don't, you can go to psacard.com and go to research, and which is a top tab, click on population report and search for about any card that you want. So we went there and we searched for the 1965 Topps Joe Namath. And what I like to look at on this, Kevin, is if I was going to have an above average card here, I would look at where the peak is. And for the Joe Namath card, the highest amount of grades is a 5. So for me, anything above a 5 is a good card for me to collect. Some of these cards you'll see, that might be the 7, the 8, the 9, or a 2 or a 3, depending on how old and how rare cards are, but I look for it. So as I look to add this card to my collection, I'm going to look for a 6 or above. When you're looking at this, you're also going to focus on the price of those and the value to make sure that it shows up in your range. You're going to say something, Kevin?
Yeah, I was going to say that's a really great insight to share with collectors there, Ben. going for the, looking for the peak, as you pointed out, PSA 5s, more of those than anybody else. And when as I'm thinking about what you just said, it's not to say this isn't a lot of money. $1,000, $1,500 is a lot of money to most people. But we are talking about a lot of money regardless if you buy a Joe Namath rookie card. And so when I think about that, the money spent for that, say, PSA 6 instead of a PSA 5, where you got a lot fewer cards that are graded higher if you go for that 6, to me, that's something where I go, you know what? I might save just a little bit longer, or maybe just trade one or two other cards to go for the 6 instead of the 5.
One of our co-hosts isn't on here today, but it's Bob's Rippin. He collects PSA, SGC, Beckett ones. And December 15th, an SGC 1 just sold for $1,000. On December 15th, same day, a PSA 7.5 just sold for $15,000. One thing to point out about this particular card is there's an enormous amount of reprints. Some passed as originals, some clearly stated as reprints. So just be cautious and careful. As with anything valuable, there is fraud and fakes out there. But you can pick up a PSA 4. One just sold for $2,600. I said to go for a 6. I'm going to find the most recent 6 if I can do that. 7,300. That's SGC 6 sold November 29th, 7,300. When you're thinking about the overall value of this card, we like to talk about the high values, even though we don't collect cards just for value. A PSA 9 sold in 2018 for $264,000. In 23, an 8.5 sold for $207,000. And an SGC 9 sold in 2024 for $180,000. September 13th, 2025, a few months ago, an 8.5 sold for $171,000. An 8 sold for $144,000. It's in that range. It's really valuable. But I want to point out something cool about cards like Mickey Mantle and Joe Namath. The cards following their rookie year are also extremely valuable and also extremely cool. If you think about the 1966 Joe Namath card, it looks like one of the famous Mickey Mantle cards, Kevin, that's like a wood grained, almost looks like a TV horizontal, if you know which one I'm talking about.
I know exactly the one you're talking about.
High price on that. Jim Mint 10, PSA 10 sold for $24,000. One sold for PSA 9, just sold for $10,000.
What's crazy about those two is they almost feel like today's inserts, right? Like a different kind of card. Like you look at like Kabooms, this guy's in a TV channel and it's just not your regular card. So I almost wonder if it was kind of the inserts of the past type thing making the different years of it, or if they had that thought.
Well, they wanted to make them stand out so that people would continue to buy the next year's cards. When you think of the 1967, 6-7 for all the kids out there right now.
6-7.
It looks like your grandma's portrait on the wall because the player's face is contained in an oval. Not the most attractive card. You look at the 68, iconic. Joe's hand is up in the air. He's holding the ball. He's got this green jersey on, blue background, beautiful color. A Jim Mint 10 sold in August 2025 for $40,000. And this is 4 years, after his rookie year. The 1969, another beautiful card. Jim Mint 10 sold in August for $51,000. Orange background, green jerseys, beautiful. And finally, the 1970, one of my favorite actual years of Ford Mustangs, went right back to grandma's framed picture in an oval. Once again, not attractive. Tops, 1970, do better.
You're not a fan of the oval card, huh? There, Ben?
No. It looks like somebody pooped an Easter egg on a sports card and put a player's picture on there.
It reminds me of the oak framed pictures, like Ben said, in grandma's house with the oak, the oak frame and a gold liner inside the oak right before the glass.
Something I want to point out too, we start, Joe's rookie card was 65. And we're kind of talking about the early days of the AFL NFL merger. Football was popular, but it wasn't like it was a distant second to baseball at the time. I think that's hard for people to understand these days because of the stranglehold the NFL has had in sports in North America over the last few decades. But, Namath too, like this finally gave football some cards to where the kids were like, oh, this is cool, because there was his Broadway Joe, right? He's doing the things that we just got done talking about, and now they're on a card. And this is when football cards really actually started to take off.
Let's think about some of the things that other people said about Joe Namath. Really kind of a incredible human. His coach, Bryant, said that he was the greatest athlete that he personally ever coached. His head coach, Eubank, said Joe had something you couldn't coach, because when he spoke, people listened. One of his teammates in Super Bowl, hear this, guys, in Super Bowl III said, he made us believe that we belonged on the same field as anyone.
I liked Don Shula, what he said about him. He said he was the first quarterback who could beat you with his arm and his confidence.
Terry Bradshaw said Joe Namath made it okay for quarterbacks to be confident and loud. Now let's go to some messages that Joe Namath said himself, because I think those are as impactful. If you want to think of one of the most famous messages that Joe ever shared, if you aren't going all the way, why go at all?
Love that. He said, football is an honest game. It's true to life, and it's a game about sharing. Football is a team game, so is life.
When you have confidence, you can have a lot of fun. And when you have fun, you can do amazing things.
I like what he said about, I've always tried to just be myself and let people take it or leave it.
That is great. Actually, I can relate to that one.
Yeah, I can see that.
To be a leader, you have to make people want to follow you. And nobody wants to follow somebody who doesn't know where he is going.
It's tempting to make these podcasts about the players that everybody think of today, the Wembanyamas and the star quarterbacks and the brand new players in baseball and the Connor Bedards and in hockey. But part of our job of this hobby is to preserve history and to teach our kids and our friends and people about the players that literally forged the way for modern sports. And Joe is definitely one of these people. And I hope that this episode inspires you to dig in and do a little bit of research and maybe pass up on the Downtown and the Kaboom and the Silver Prism and all the other random stuff that we chase all the time at the next card show, and pick up just a little bit of history and put one of these older cards on your shelf. I promise you, you won't regret it. At Cardboard Wars, it means the world to us if you take the time on YouTube to comment, or on Apple to write us a review and give us a ranking, or on social media to share this with your friends. This week, if you made it this far, I'm going to ask you to go to YouTube, and it's just Cardboard Wars, and then subscribe and make a comment. And somebody who makes a comment, I'm going to mail you off some of our brand new Cardboard Wars swag and Mem. It's pretty sick. Jake got some of his today that he was pretty excited about. Any final words, gentlemen?
You don't want to miss out on the new swag. That's for sure. I got a little piece in the mail. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's fire.
Yeah, I was just going to say mine's inside the house. I saw it right before we started recording. I was like, I don't have time to open it, but I know what that is, and I'm coming back in here to get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Cardboard Wars. Next time you see us in a live stream on Loop or whatnot or Instagram Live, instead of saying hi, just type in, "This is Cardboard Wars," and I'll know that you actually listen. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Cardboard Wars on the Rippin' Podcast Network. Don't forget to leave a rating and review and check out rippin.com to get connected to what we have coming up. Find us on Instagram and let us know what you would like to hear about on a future episode of Cardboard Wars. Until next time, keep rippin'.